this show tonight that actually can now come out and actually help you, whether it's one of the MPs from your area or a doctor that do so, and I hope that someone is listening very clearly. What I find here is, to answer your question, because mental health is an important part of something that's happened in my family. We've had to live with it for a long period of time. And I can say that during the period of the Labour government, and I'm sorry, I know you weren't in power, but I watched halfway houses closing under the Labour Party in Manchester. I saw the decimation of Wythenshawe in Manchester and the treatment that went there. And I went into those hospitals and saw how degraded that were treating patients there. And what I'm proud of, one of the proudest things I am in terms of UKIP is that if you look very clearly on our mental health programme that we put into place, we're going to use a whole person approach. We're dealing specifically with the young people and also parents who have mental health as a consequence of giving birth or prior to that as well. And in terms of the armed forces, where we have a lot of PTSD, we're putting a lot of funding into that, over £130 million a year overall in relation to that. I no longer want mental health to be the second-class system of health care that it has been over the last. And I appreciate and I'm glad that I'm listening to what you're saying, Norman, because it really is something that we have to deal with. And in terms of UKIP, we will be putting up to £3 billion a year. In terms of the NHS, that's about 20,000 doctors, 3,000 midwives, for example. And we're doing that by not having to cut welfare. We're doing it by cutting vanity projects like HS2.
So why does your leader keep saying that, you know, we should have a US-style private healthcare system in this country? And why is he continually slagging off the NHS?
You know, Emma,
He's on record. We've got videos of him saying it.
No, you've got it. And as he said to your leader, you know, that
was it another bad day when he said the NHS?
Was he tired again?
No. You know, this is not a one-person party. There are many people involved in this.
He's the leader of the party.
Yeah, but he's a leader, but he's also got to listen to people like myself as spokesman for migration. He's got to listen to Louise Bors, who's the spokesperson in terms of health. He has to listen to the members of the party who actually contributed to this debate, and he lost the debate firmly and clearly, and we absolutely make clear in our manifesto that we believe that the NHS is crucial to this country. We've got an ageing population, we've got more medical care needed, we've got more medicines, but what we've seen with the NHS, it was great 60 years ago, but at the moment it needs nursing back to health, and we've got to stop using it as a political battlefield between parties. We've got to sensibly come together, if necessary, to try and make sure that we get the investment into the areas that are important. And he definitely lost a debate on that, and it will stay free at the point of delivery, and that's how it will work with the investment that we suggest will go into that.
The hashtag is Newsbeat. Tina, what's everyone saying?
It is. Lots of people are sharing their stories online. Let's go to this message from Satish Kumar, first of all. The GP surgery in my area is now triaging patients by phone before giving an appointment. Where is the good old-fashioned clinic? This from Laura. Mental illness should be taken more seriously and must have more support. I don't see why it hasn't had more support anyway. And let's move on to Jack. Privatisation of the NHS isn't a bad thing if it's free at the point of use like France or Germany. What's the problem? Amelia, Womack, what's the problem? You want, your party, the Greens, want a fully publicly funded health service.
I think it's vitally important that we do have a fully publicly funded health service. But as we've seen creeping privatisation, we've seen creeping costs. When you look at the American health service, it costs a lot more than the UK health service, which, let's face it, is a world-renowned health service for its delivery. But it does need more investment. It needs more investment into our nurses. We were having a discussion earlier about this, the stresses that are put on to nurses at the moment that are making their jobs so tough. We need investment into mental health.
On the subject of investment, your party's promising £12 billion, the most amount of extra money. Where are you going to get that money from?
I mean, we're clear about who's going to foot the bill for this. It's clear that as a society we've got to choose if we want to have a fully public funded NHS. I mean, we've talked on the screen, it mentioned about an ageing population. Our parents, our grandparents were promised a health service, invested into this country because they were promised a health service, and it's the government's duty to deliver that now.
But we believe it's the richest in society.
We believe it's the richest in society that should be supporting us as a whole, that we want to have closed tax loopholes, but we also want to have a progressive tax that means that we are able to invest this £12 billion into our health service, as well as a tax on the richest 1% in this country.
Would you go
let's
as far
move on now. Sorry, we do need to move on. We're going to run out of time. I'm so sorry. Because we do need to fit in a bit of a chat about education. When we did our survey of 6,000 18 to 24-year-old voters, it was one of their top priorities. Now, we talked a lot about tuition fees in Leeds a couple of weeks ago, and you can pick that up on iPlayer. But let's ask our audience in Birmingham, could schools and colleges do better?
I'm Stuart, I'm 23 and I'm from Birmingham, and I think that, in my opinion, the education system in this country is a little bit flawed and would need restructuring in terms of what young people actually get out of their education. So from what I've experienced in education, it is very much push towards universities, qualifications, big-time degrees, that sort of thing. And the problem is that now there is too many jobs, there's too many people trying to get a small number of qualified jobs. And what's been looked down upon is apprenticeships. They've been pushed to the side, been looked at as for the naughty kids, for the stupid kids, and they're the jobs that we now have loads of vacancies in, but people can't do because they've been pushed towards universities. And I think that there needs to be, apprenticeships need to be treated equally, as viewed as equal as a qualification in uni is, and that people on apprenticeships, shouldn't be viewed as stupid.
Absolutely.
I'm Rebecca, I'm 24 and I'm from Stoke-on-Trent. What I would like to know is what you're going to do to increase the morale in teaching, because I've read statistics which say, particularly for NQTs, 3 out of 5 NQTs leave within first 5 years of teaching. I mean, increased workloads, dealing with poor behaviour, they don't feel like they're getting the support. What are you going to do to help teachers and make it a thriving profession?
Does that chime with you? We've got a trainee teacher here, haven't we?
Hi, yeah, I'm Becky, I'm from Birmingham and I'm doing my PGC at the moment at Birmingham. That is true, that's not true of my experience at the moment, and I think that one thing that needs to come out of this debate is that the education system at the moment is a fantastic thing. The worry that I have is the fact that at the moment there's rhetoric about bringing in unqualified teachers into the classroom. If we want our young people to achieve, how can we expect that to happen if people are teaching who don't understand the profession, who can't get the best out of children, and that's what we all want.
Emma Reynolds.
I do think there is a worry about the increase in the number of unqualified teachers in classrooms, and we've said that that won't happen under a Labour government, and unfortunately under this government there have been rising numbers. I also think it's regrettable that the Education Secretary that was in post for longer than the one that we've got at the moment, Michael Gove, he called teachers the enemies of promise, which I think is a pretty disgusting statement, frankly. And we need to attract the brightest and the best into the teaching profession. But if I could also just pick up on what was said a minute ago from Stuart. We're in the heart of the country here in the West Midlands. We've got a very, very long tradition of making things, of manufacturing, and I do want to see more apprenticeships, and the Labour Party has said that they will guarantee an apprenticeship for young people who get the basic grades, because we do need to learn from countries like Germany that do value apprenticeships at the same level as degrees, and we do need to make sure we've got better careers advice in schools so that young people have those opportunities from an early age and they're not just getting pushed into university. University is really important. I went to university, I really enjoyed it, but it's not for everybody, and we need to make sure that those opportunities are there for all young people and that we're not talking down vocational education.
Let's try and get you an answer to that very direct point you made about unqualified teachers in the classroom, because that was Michael Gove's policy.
What I would say, and Becky, I appreciate what you said and your particular response about how rewarding teaching can be. I went to school around here. Just at the back is Harborne Hill Comprehensive School where I went to. I then went to Matthew Bolton FE. The teacher I spoke about earlier on, I'm afraid, Becky, was an unqualified teacher. He was a fantastic positive male role model for me, changed my life completely. I think you have to take this basic fact. It's not just about their qualifications, it's about them as a person and whether they can inspire you. I go into schools in Wolverhampton and I tell young children that story. And I have to tell you, the kids at the back who are not paying attention, the minute I tell them that story, a light goes off and it switches on. It's about inspiring kids to believe that they can go as far as they want to.
I think Paul Uppal is saying you're wrong.
I agree that it is about inspiring young people, but at the moment we have an education system that values English and maths, and there are a lot of children who aren't mathematicians and English literacy isn't their strong point. Why don't we have a broader curriculum to get those engineers that we need? Why don't we push science in primary schools? Why don't we let those children who are artists express that, but instead there's this pressure on primary schools and league tables to constantly get results in English and maths. Why don't we celebrate the other things and give a broader curriculum for our children?
Hi, my name's Stacey Hume and I'm from Wolverhampton. I am 18 years old. I also think it's about education for life. It's about life skills. It's about political education. I have people, my own friends, who are 18, who don't even know what's the difference between the Conservatives and UKIP. They don't understand politics. We need to have a political education where people understand what's being taught, understand the simple things of how to vote. We need to have that in our system before we start talking about how we need to change the teachers and things and maths and science. Enough about algebra. How do you vote for your MP?
Stephen, what is the difference between the Conservatives and UKIP?
Oh, there's a huge
Please clear that up for us.
there, and I think we could go on for a lot longer if we do so. What I'm impressed here is, once again, in debates like this across the country, how intelligent and how questioning our young people are. And it's a statement of how good generally our education system is. And I think we do our system down particularly well in this country. But one area that I do believe in that we need to improve in is what Stuart's talking about. And it's always been a key fundamental of UKIP's policy. And that is that we've got to bring back the technical colleges and the training colleges to enable those who don't want to go to university to do the different skills. Like my uncle, who's a site manager for a large building company, he began his career learning how to do electrics and plastering at a technical college that led him into an apprenticeship scheme. We talked about Germany. Germany still have those technical colleges in place. Poland and Lithuania still have those technical colleges in place. And we bring those people here for those jobs because of those skills. We must stop the snobbery that's in this country that relates to people who don't go to university and looks down upon them. We must treat them equally and say that everybody who succeeds, depending on what they want, is important, and that's valuable in this country.
Let's try and get another point in really quickly.